You're listening to the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast. This is the podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs who understand that exponential business growth isn't achieved through traditional business tactics alone, but through personal development, the ultimate leverage point to scale businesses beyond conventional limits. Hosted by Erica Ferenczi, featuring lessons from the Practical, Profitable Mindset program, created by R. John Robbins, Alejandra Leibovich, Erica, and Oscar Ferenczi. And here's your host, Erica Ferenczi.
Today's lesson is about something many business owners struggle with, and that is staying focused. When you have too many priorities pulling you in all different directions, it usually means one thing: you do not have a clear plan. Without a plan, it is easy to chase new ideas, jump between projects, and stay busy without actually moving forward. So the first step is always to start with the end in mind. Asking yourself, what do I truly want from this business this year? This could be a specific income goal, more free time, more growth, more stability. But the most important part is asking, why is that goal matters to you? Your why is what will keep you motivated all year long and will stop you from getting distracted every single time a new opportunity comes up. Once that goal is clear, you can work backwards to build a real plan. That will mean figuring out how much marketing you need, how many leads the business needs, how many clients are required, how many cases or gadgets or projects must be completed, and how many staff members will take to make all of that happen. Every person on your team should know exactly what the role is and have clear metrics, often called KPIs, so they can understand how they can and will contribute to the main objective. In all of this, communication is absolutely key. Leaders should regularly update their teams on progress, celebrate wins, and address gaps. Monthly check-ins, quarterly reviews, and year-end planning will be the things that keep everyone rowing in the same direction. The goal with this whole thing is alignment, not constant change. You can pivot when something isn't working, but you should never shift priorities just because a new idea sounds exciting. You must stop doing work just to stay busy. And everyone understand that every task in the business should have a clear outcome that benefits the overall goal. If an activity doesn't move the needle, it probably shouldn't be happening. At the same time, entrepreneurs often want to experiment with new ideas, and that is okay, as long as those experiments are controlled. You can set aside small testing budget and clear time limits so new projects don't distract you from the core business unless those projects provide real value. Today's lesson will emphasize all of that, and especially the fact that owners cannot stay stuck in day-to-day production forever. In order for your business to grow, the owner needs to step into the role of leadership and hire the people who can run other parts for them. Remember that real growth requires stepping out of daily production and into leadership, to hire intentionally, to systematize your processes, and think in terms of return of investment instead of fear. You can create a yearly theme your team can rally behind, reward success, and make sure that everybody truly buys into the mission. When people, a team, a company stays clear on their goals, they implement relentless tracking of progress, and they get disciplined about where their time and their energy is going, the business will grow exponentially and start moving forward with purpose. You will hear from Oscar Ferenczi, who is a co-creator and one of the 4 facilitators of the Practical, Profitable Mindset program. He is also a serial CEO. He has dedicated his life to scale companies, run mergers and acquisitions, and help enterprises experience explosive growth.
The problem that most of you are having when you have so many different priorities and you're going in different directions and not necessarily focusing on the things that you know you should be focusing on is because you lack what I will call a master plan. A master plan that gives you focus and purpose to both your life and your business. This master plan becomes the one and only thing that you pursue on a consistent basis. To me, the first question is to start with the end. And the end is, how much do you want to make this year? What is the number that you want to hit? What do you guys want to achieve or accomplish? It does not have to be only monetary. It might be something you want to accomplish. And so that is where we start. What do I want to take out of this business? What do I want to accomplish? And you have to establish why that is relevant for you. So we go to the question that is always around the why. Why is it that I want to achieve this? Why is it that I want to make this amount of money? Why is it that this is important for me? Because without that why, you will go in all kinds of directions, not necessarily the one that actually drives you. The why is supposed to drive you through the whole year. So, for example, we are now doing this same process at HTM. I have the first meeting with the financial staff. They have already met with each of the different divisions and each of the different business units that we have in the company. And everybody has come back with their wish list. This is what I expect to make. This is what I expect to bring in terms of new members, in terms of new programs, in terms of things that we want to launch, in terms of people that I need. And we consolidate all of this information. And I take a first stab at it today and say, oh my God, we are way over in our expenses, or we are way over in our sales projection, which would then justify whatever expenses they're asking for. But the exercise is all about taking a look at our business from a very objective point of view. What do we want to achieve? Now, my next question is to Arjan and Ali. Arjan and Ali, how much do you want to pull out of this business this year? And based on that number, I can then go back to all of the business units and say, guys, we would not make the numbers we need under this scenario you have proposed. So what we got to go back to the drawing board and establish one of two things, either a larger revenue base, or we have to cut back on expenses. And then comes a negotiation of, if we cut back on expenses, then we can't do these priorities. And we have to put those in a balance and decide, you know what, that priority can wait until next year. We're not going to take care of it because it's not in alignment with the why that we have established. And the why, again, is a matter of either what you want out of your business or what you want to achieve with your business this year. So unless you have a very, very clear why, you will be distracted. You will go after the shiny, bright objects that come your way during the year. So you have to become completely focused and immersed into what it is you have decided you want to do and why you want to do that. All right? So what needs to happen is the next question for that to become real. So if I want to pull out, let's just say, $1 million from my business, what do I need to do? What needs to happen in order for me to walk away with $1 million? So here come the following questions that you need to ask. How much marketing spend do I need to put into my business? And it isn't a guess. You need to know what your marketing is generating for you. How many leads are coming your way? What is your closing ratio? How many clients do I need? How many new matters do I need to open and close? So all of these questions have to be answered by you or your team if your team is at a level where they can begin to do this exercise with you. So in order to achieve a revenue of $1 million, this is what needs to happen. We need to spend $100,000 in marketing. That $100,000 needs to generate X number of traffic, X number of calls, X number of intakes or outbound calls, this number of conversions, this number of new cases. You have to break it down to the most basic concept so that you can then track that. Again, without a why and without an ability to track what you have set out as a goal for yourself, you're going after anything that comes your way. And you cannot afford to do that if you want to stay focused. And if you don't want to be juggling priorities every week or every quarter the way you're doing right now. So, how much staff am I going to need to process those cases that I have said I need to make that $1 million? You know what your SKUs look like. You know what your production and your sausage factory looks like. So, how many people do I need to go through all of these cases and all of these new customers that I want to bring in? This is not different than a business plan. This is your business plan. Now, your business plan usually does not start with the first question, which is, what do I want to get out of this business this year? And there's a couple of other things that I want to add to the plan that are going to keep you excited. Okay? So, how much staff do I need? If I need more staff than I currently have, who is going to hire those people? What is the name of the person? Not you, unless you have the bandwidth, but who is going to do this for you? This is the only way you're going to prevent yourself from falling into this endless pit of work that you can't never get out of. You are not the recruiter of your firm. You should be the last interview. You should be the person that vets the person that is coming into the firm. But you cannot be putting the job posting on social media. You cannot be the person reviewing each and every one of those CVs that comes your way. Yes, you are the person who decides what is going to be written when you post that job. But you don't do the mechanical part of it or the operational part of it. You wait until the process and you develop a process for that. And you come in at the end of the process to vet the person you're going to hire or not. Are you going to need new SKUs? Is this part of what you want to accomplish? In order to bring that $1 million, do I need to take on new matters? Do I need to go into services that I'm not currently providing? And so, what do my lawyers and my staff in general need to do to achieve this objective I've set out? You don't have to tell them you're walking away with $1 million. You have to communicate with them that the objective of the firm is to walk away with $1 million this year. That is the objective. And so, what is everyone's responsibility in the design of that project? What does every person bring to the table? And that is your KPIs. Every person has a job related to that $1 million you want to bring into the house. And so what is the role and what are the metrics of those people by which you are going to measure them this year? Nothing else. You got to keep it objective. You got to keep it factual. It's not about, I think. It's not about maybe they can do this or not. No, you need to have an answer for every person in your firm and how they're going to contribute to the achievement of your goals. And then you need to communicate this over and over and over again. And you have to come back to every single person in the firm, either as a group or individually, and I would say both actually, where you let them know how you're doing relative to your objective. Every month you go back to your organization and you let them in on what is happening. You let them know whether you're doing well. You let them know if you're not meeting the expectation. And then you have individual meetings with those people who are not meeting their expectation or their KPIs to call them out on what it is you need from them and to call them out on why they're not achieving those things that they were set to achieve. And it might turn out that it's the resources that you have not given them, or it's the support that they need, and that's all good. But if that is the case, then you need to assess whether you need to give these people more resources or not, because you might have made a mistake when you split the budget and you might have not given them enough money to buy or have the resources they need. which is one thing that we often do. We say, listen, we think that all these things can be achieved in HTM with this amount of money, only to find out that, you know what, we miscalculated that, and we're going to need a budget deviation or a budget variance because we're going to have to invest in some additional things that we left out. Not from bad intention, not for any other reason that, you know what, we didn't think about it. And that's why you are constantly reviewing your results against your budget and against your revised budget. Okay? Now, if you communicate and everybody understands what their responsibility is, and everybody has clear KPIs on what they are responsible for delivering, and everybody in the organization is rowing in the same direction, the chances of you going by the wayside because you don't know what to do or you're bored are much lower than they would be otherwise. If everybody is focused on the same objective and you become relentless about the pursuit of that objective, everybody in the organization will be rowing in the same direction, and you will not have to change directions. You can pivot. When things are not going the way you want, you can pivot, but you pivot with awareness. You pivot knowing why you're making that pivot. You're moving in the different direction because what you have done so far has not proven to work. You don't just do it because you woke up today with a desire to do something different. Because every time you do that, you throw your organization into a chaos. And people don't know what's up from down. They don't know what the flavor of the day is. They consider you Baskin Robbins, meaning 31 flavors, one for every day of the month. And you don't want to be that boss who changes priorities every day because the organization can't work. You cannot achieve anything in one day. So if every day, every week, or every month you change objectives, people can't achieve the results you've set out for them. So you do not set them up for success every time you change the direction or the focus of your business. Okay? Now, I've said this a couple times, and some of you have picked up on it and some have not, but I always say stop doing activity for the sake of activity. Stop doing things that keep you busy. Focus on things that actually generate a result for you. If you cannot see the result of the activity being done by you or somebody in your firm, that activity has to stop. Otherwise, everybody's busy, 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 and nobody's actually achieving anything that is worthy. And so please, every time you assign somebody to do something, what is the outcome? What is going to come of that effort? And if there is no answer, if there is no tangible answer, you got to stop dishing out those kind of instructions or those kind of orders or those kind of, tasks that are really not going to move the needle. Now, as the year takes off and the organization is focused, you might have a desire to explore. As an entrepreneur, you're probably going to have this bug inside of you that says, but you know what? Sometimes if I just focus on the business, I can get bored. And that's fine. Arjan does that all the time. And here's what we have created for this to mitigate the organization's focus. So what we have set out is a testing ground. We call it an R&D budget, research and development. And so what we have said is, Arjan, here's an amount of money that we have earmarked for him to go test, have fun, do things, and whatever comes of it, comes of it. And if nothing comes of it, nothing comes of it. But we don't let it affect the business until we know that there is something tangible and a proof of concept. Okay? And this is very important. You set out an amount of money for you to enjoy, for you to test, for you to go out of your way to do things that when you're feeling bored, instead of taking the entire organization down that boring route that you just decided to follow, or that shiny bright object that you thought could be the next, golden pill or golden goose, you move the organization away from that, and you yourself have a specific budget and a specific amount of resources to go after that test. Okay? Decide how much time you personally are going to put behind that test. What are your thresholds for pain? In other words, if I hit this number of months and nothing happens, we're out. If we don't generate X amount of money, we're out. You put yourself in a situation where you have an out clause. Otherwise, it could become an endless pit of investments that doesn't take you anywhere. And we go back to this thing I said about activity for the sake of activity, not for results. It's good to test, but if the test is not paying out in the way you expected, you have to stop the test. Otherwise, you're just doing activity for the sake of activity, not for the sake of results. Okay? When COVID struck, Arjan came in one morning and said, guys, I am making $1 million this year, an extra $1 million this year. Do not get tied to the outcome. Focus on what it is you want to do. In that moment, the outcome was $1 million. How we got the $1 million was a secondary discussion or importance. The fact was that we were going to make $1 million, an additional $1 million. And so Arjan didn't focus on how, and he didn't drive everybody crazy trying to figure out how we were going to do it. What he did was put a stake in the ground that says, we are making $1 million extra based on what is currently happening. So let's go find a way to make that $1 million. And he put some of his R&D budget behind it. And we put all kinds of resources in terms of creative minds to think how we can create that additional $1 million. And lo and behold, we did actually more than $1 million extra that year. Only because he was able to separate the core business, which was focused, from how do we make an additional $1 million. And that allowed the organization to stay focused, doing what they were supposed to do, while there was a smaller group of people. Sometimes it'll just be yourself and your assistant who is going to try to see how you can make something else happen. But you don't screw up the golden goose. You do not take your organization out of focus only because you woke up this morning with a dream or a thought on how you can make more money. Okay? So don't get focused on the outcome. The outcome is a statement, $1 million. What you have to focus on is what are you going to do to create that $1 million? And it goes back to where I started. Why do you want that extra $1 million? How are we going to get that $1 million? What needs to happen to get that additional $1 million? How are we going to roll it out? Who is responsible for what? When are they responsible for it? And how do we measure everybody towards the achievement of the goals or functions you've now defined for them? The one thing you all have in favor is that each and every one of you has done every job in your firm. So when you tell somebody that they're going to take over a job you have done in the past, you can be extremely clear and concise in telling that person or knowing what the expectation is for that person. You don't have to second guess. You don't need their opinion. You know exactly what they need to do. You've done it. And so you begin by creating a job description or a KPI or a set of functions, activities, and outcomes that you expect of each person that is going to do a job in your firm. Okay? So that's the lesson. It is not more than you're currently working on. This is all about focusing and all about defining why you are going to set out and create a vision for 2023. In my previous world, every single year, we would have a theme for the year. And that helped when we were communicating with employees, that would help them identify the reason why we were doing the things we were doing. So set a motto, set a subject, set something that identifies this year as the year in which you're going to do X, in the year in which you're going to achieve Y. This is the year in which this firm is going to the next level. Define what the next level means. This is the year in which I, as the owner of the firm, begin to delegate. So you, employees, become the star of the show. So if you're able to capture the spirit of what you're trying to achieve over the year, then it becomes something that people can rally behind and feel identified with. You can then make t-shirts. You can then have, bi-monthly outings where you talk about it and you keep the spirit and the theme alive so that people know that is the focus of the year and it's not going away because you continue to visit and you continue to talk about it on a consistent manner. And so nobody can question, well, but last month you said we were going in this direction and this month you're telling me something else. You're like, no, I'm telling you this is the objective of the year and we're not negotiating that objective. That is what we're going to achieve. And that's what your KPIs are all about. And then we can talk about compensation. Listen, guys, if we achieve that $1 million, here's what I'm willing to do for you guys. You will all share in a bonus of X%. And that will keep them engaged, focused, and hopefully working towards the achievement of the goal, not just keeping busy. Remember, there is a very important concept that I'm trying to share with you here, which is the group needs to buy into this. If the group buys into this, then everybody rows in the same direction. If you have even one person in your team that is not rowing in that direction, you have somebody who doesn't care about the outcome and will simply try to justify their existence, their job, and their, sustainability in your firm. And you got to cut those people out. Whoever is working on this only for themselves and not for the betterment of the organization or the achievement of a shared goal, that person is no longer a part of the team. And that person, you have to go back to the person and either get rid of the person or get that person to align with you on whatever it is that you have said you want to achieve. Okay? So cool. I'll open it up for questions.
My main big question is, I don't know how to prioritize. I need some more help on that because even though when we did our priorities for the rest of this quarter, I mean, everybody's putting like 2 or 3 things and I have like 8.
So here's what I would say. You want to learn how to prioritize better. Got it. You have 8 things that you're working on. Is it feasible that you have 8 things that you're working on? Is it humanly possible without you working 24/7? It's my first question.
Yeah.
My second question is, are those things that you would call priorities things that actually move the needle? Or are they just activity to keep you busy? And I would really challenge, because many things we have our people do, or many things we do ourselves, are not really focused on an outcome. I think I have to do it. Well, what if you stopped doing it and tested what happened when you didn't do that anymore? What if you gave that priority to somebody else? How have you tried, and this is what I call pivot, how have you pivoted from what you currently do, which are these 8 things, and focused on 5 of them or 4 of them? That's it. Put it to the test, challenge yourself, because for the longest time you have said, I need to do these things. Are these things getting you to the outcome you desire? Are these things in alignment with your why you're doing what you want to do and why you want to achieve the goals you want in your firm? Is it in line with what you set out to do this year? Is it in line with the things you want to accomplish for yourself and your business this year? If it isn't, it's not a priority. There's a gap of time between I want to and I am going to react to it. So instead of running out of this call and saying, I'm signed up, I'm doing this on the spot. No. You're going to say, how does this new shiny bright object help the achievement of my goals? How is this related to what I want to do on a larger scale? How is this going to keep me focused, not unfocused? And you're going to answer that before you decide to take on anything. Otherwise, you're fighting for prioritization. You don't know what to do because you do anything that comes your way. Mm-hmm. So give it a moment to say, how does this actually change or help the achievement of my goals, the things that I set out to do for this year? And if the answer is it doesn't help in any way, but I want to do it, then the question to you is, fine, can you afford to do it? What do you need to get off your plate and delegate it to somebody else so that you can take on this new thing that you know has nothing to do with your objectives, but it touched a fiber in your heart and you said, I want to do it? You cannot take two priorities. You got to take one. That means one gets delegated. And if you don't have anybody to delegate to, then that new priority goes onto your waiting list, your desire list, your wish list. It's going to happen, but it can't happen today. Today, I am focused on building a team, on creating the onboarding process that usually takes 6 months. When I am done with that, and I know that my onboarding will not take 6 months, then I will have time to do this. But what comes first, because it is in alignment with what I want to achieve. Stop being busy and start being productive.
Welcome back. Let's recap the 3 takeaways from this very powerful lesson. Number 1, clarity starts with knowing what you want and why is that you want it. Without a strong why, priorities constantly will shift and focus will disappear. But with clarity, decisions become easier, distractions lose their power, and momentum builds. Second, real growth requires a structured plan and team alignment. When goals are translated into numbers, roles, and KPIs, key performance indicators, everyone on your team will understand how is that they're contributing to the overall objectives of the company. Progress needs to be reviewed consistently, not emotionally, and adjustments need to be made with intention, not with impulse. Lesson number 3. Successful leaders stop confusing busyness with productivity. Every task must lead to a measurable result. At the same time, innovation is handled through controlled testing and never at the expense of the core business. And as the business expands and grows, owners must step out of daily production, but more and more into leadership, hiring intentionally, and expecting a return on investment on every single one of their resources, including their people. This lesson reminds us that focus isn't about doing more. It is about doing what matters and doing that relentlessly and consistently. And that is exactly what we do at the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast. And now it will be your own turn to take action. Here is to your exponential growth. Stay healthy, stay hungry, and stay focused. And we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast. We encourage you to take action on it today. Share what you've learned with another entrepreneur. Sign up for our newsletter to get bonus content you won't get anywhere else at exponentialentrepreneur.com, and subscribe to the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast to receive the next episode. Until next time, keep breaking through limiting beliefs and growing exponentially.